this week's episode of Not Your Mama's Podcast. Today, we are talking with Nikki Burnett. She is a functional nutritionist, health detective, and founder of Taste Life Nutrition. She is also the host of Taste Life Nutrition Radio and podcast, which streams every Thursday at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. Nikki, it's such an honor to have you on. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. Can you introduce yourself to the audience?
Of course. Thanks for having me. So as you said, Nikki Burnett, I practice functional nutrition. And what that means is I'm a health detective in a sense. I want to understand the root cause of dysfunction and or to allow people to live optimally, right? So I fully believe we have so many big things that we are here to do. When we don't feel good, it's hard to do them. And so I want to help people understand their bodies, understand what their bodies need, get out of dysfunction if that's where they are, and then, help to grow. And that includes generations, right? The things that we do today can affect generations ahead of us.
Yeah, that is so true. So breaking down in simple terms, what is functional nutrition for someone who is hearing that definition for the first time?
Yeah. In simple terms, it's kind of just what I said. It's digging for the root cause. So what do? We want to look at lifestyle, right? We want to look at everything that goes in. That includes, though, trauma, relationships, how you talk to yourself, and then, of course, what you eat, how you move, if you're sleeping. All of these, what we would call lifestyle factors, play a role in understanding how a body functions or if a body is dysfunctional. And so by understanding those and then running labs, and this is not your everyday comprehensive metabolic panel, it's really, really deep labs to understand what's going on, what the body's trying to tell us. That's what I see a lab report as, right? Is the body talks to us through symptoms, and the body talks to us through these reports that we can find. And so through that, we can then understand what's going on, create a protocol, an individualized protocol to then allow the body to put it together to strategically and methodically move the body to a place where it is able to function better on its own. And, then we start to get rid of symptoms. We start to autoimmune diseases start to get better, right? Pain and symptoms and all of these things that we deal with on a daily basis, things start to get better because the body's able to function better.
Yeah. So, talking about, gut dysfunction, I know for me, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease last year of December, which is a huge part of our bodies and is related to like an autoimmune disease. Can you, for people out there suffering, because I know millions of people suffer with gut dysfunction, can you explain a little bit more about how the autoimmune system is related to that and like what people can do to, have a more functional body?
Yeah. So just for the sake of clarity, so it's the immune system that is, so some will say it's dysfunctional.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we have been, that could it be that be a part of it? Maybe, but let's look at it in a different way. Let's look at it as the body is so amazingly complicated and smart and beautifully intricate that what if it's not so much a dysfunction as a protective mechanism, right? So I think that's it's an intriguing way of looking at it. Most people won't see it that way. Most will say an autoimmune condition is a dysfunction of the immune system where it's attacking its own cells and tissues, which is kind of what's happening. But I do believe that there's an intelligence there that is what we don't understand. And so what do we want to do? Autoimmune diseases can stem from the gut, sure, but especially Crohn's disease, right? But if it's Hashimoto's, autoimmune thyroid, if it's attacking brain tissue, we can have autoimmune conditions that attack all the tissues of our body. But we can't just blame it on the gut. This is where functional medicine, functional nutrition comes in, because what was that trigger, right? So epigenetically, we may have the potential for specific autoimmune conditions, and it's cool because that's the stuff that we can see in labs. But the trigger could have been trauma,
Hmm.
infection, mold toxicity, environmental toxicants, the meat we eat. It could be a combination of all of these things that triggered this dysfunction. And then now you have this label, right? Which is really not you. It's then going back and understanding what is it that we can do to release this burden from the body so it can actually start to function properly again.
Hmm. I know one thing that I enjoyed doing to help kind of release, stress or tension is tapping. Doing a lot of like the tapping stuff has been really helpful. Because it's true. Like when I was diagnosed, like I felt like there was a lot of stress in my life, kind of
Yeah.
always on like walking on my tiptoes and what was happening during that time. I was just like a huge sudden move out of nowhere, and your body's at like a dis-ease because no matter what I was doing, I was trying to like hold it in my mind, like everything's going to be okay. I can work through it, but it like showed up in my body, and that's kind of, it's really important to understand. And, I feel like autoimmune diseases sometimes stem from just stress alone, like stress of life or your environment
Of
and things
course.
like that,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
emotions that, your gut is your second brain. So it's gonna like talk to you in a different way, and we have to like listen to it. And sometimes listening to it is harder than we think it is because we don't trust ourselves.
Well, and that's a huge part of sort of my message to people, whether it's
Hmm.
talking to an individual or talking to groups of people. It's we because what you say is key is really taking a step back and learning to listen to our bodies again. Because what we do now so often is, well, I have a pain, and so I'm going to take an ibuprofen, or I have a stomach ache, and so I'm going to take an antacid, or I had this whole bunch of symptoms and I don't know what to do, and I just want to drink it away. You choose your poison, right? But instead of saying, what is my body trying to tell me? And
Hmm.
what is it that I can do, or who can I go to, or what research can I do, whatever it is that it looks like for each person, to learn what it is that my body's trying to tell me so I can help it. Because really, what it's doing is knocking on that door and saying, hey, I can't do this on my own anymore. I need
Hmm.
you, and I need you to help to jump in because I'm doing is trying to protect you, but it's not working the way that it should.
Hmm.
Is it due to micronutrient deficiencies? Certainly, if you have a GI issue, whether it's simple or whether none of them are simple, but a chronic autoimmune condition, you're certainly not absorbing your nutrients properly. So what
Yeah.
is it that you can do to to get those nutrients in so the body can function? This is the beautiful thing about food. As a nutritionist, it's all of these lifestyle things that make such an impact, but the beautiful thing about food is it's a language.
Hmm.
It communicates to our cells and our DNA what our bodies are supposed to do. So if it's clean, body's like, okay, I got this. Let's do this. And if it's not, if we're eating, food full of chemicals and pesticides and go on and on and on, the
Hmm.
body becomes confused,
Yeah.
right? And so it will start sending out those signals saying, I need you to jump in now.
Yeah. And
Mm.
it's so hard to kind of avoid the chemicals sometimes because it's in the soil of the foods that grow. And in our corn and in our fruits and our vegetables. And, we try our best to like buy organic, but, inflation happens. And I think that people just need to try to do their best with the budget that they have. We
Yeah.
live in like this toxic bubble, or laundry detergents have toxins in them. And, there's only like three corporations that own like all the brands. So they give you like an illusion of choice, but really, they're all like held under tight corporate umbrella. So, we have to like be smart and navigate the best way that we can.
We do, and we have pretty good tools and resources to help us through some of that stuff because you're right. it can be hard, especially when we don't have an understanding of what to look for, what's fake, what's not
Mhm.
fake, what's the quote unquote greenwashing. We're told that these natural, say natural cleaners are good for us when they're full of toxins, but they say natural, right?
Yeah.
And so I
Mhm.
hear this in practice all the time. Well, it says natural. It doesn't matter. It means nothing. But my favorite resource is environmentalworkinggroup.com or .org, EWG, yes. And so you can go to their website, you can put in whatever cleaner, whatever food, whatever ingredient, and just put in EWG and whatever it is that you're looking
Mhm.
for, and it'll come up with a rating. It'll tell you why. I mean, the stories that I have about even my own experiences, when I'm pretty clean, I'm pretty good about what I do and what I put into our
Mhm.
environment, what I put into my body and on my skin. But there, I can think I did my research and I look it up on EWG. This happened recently, and it comes out in F,
You're
right?
like,
And this is,
whoa.
yeah, it's
You're like,
really
think you're doing all
frustrating.
good, and it's like got an F rating. You're like, great. That was a fail.
Big fail, big
Yeah.
fail. And so these things, where people have this mindset, and I do too. I hate wasting money. But it's, well, I'm just going to finish it because, well, I don't want to waste the money. There are some situations where it's, no, I'm throwing it out because I don't want to be exposed to it. I don't want my dogs to be exposed to it. I don't want my husband to be exposed to it. This is not okay, right?
Hmm.
And so throw it away and find the better options, because there are some great options out there for all of the things that we do. And sometimes if we do simple things like going back to the cleaners, vinegar and essential oils, they're inexpensive, they're easy, it doesn't take any time to do them, and it actually is healthy.
Yeah. It's amazing. I just don't see how it can be legal to like put these chemicals in all of our foods. Like, how is it even legal to do that? Like, clearly, like, we're like the sickest we've ever been. We're like the most obese we've ever been. And we're like the only country, like, we're literally like just lab rats for the United States, I feel like. They just do experiments on us. We have no idea what they're doing just to see how we react. They can give two shits if we get sick or whatever. It's the world we live in is crazy. Yeah, I can't believe.
Yeah, it is crazy. What's beautiful about it, though, is that I have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
I have a choice whether I support these companies or I say no with my pocketbook and put them out of business, right? And it takes education, it takes awareness, it takes an understanding, which is a huge part of why I do what I do, right? I want to get the message out there. We don't have to be this sick. It's up to me on, going to EWG and determining, okay, this food it has because I can't afford to go just do all organic, which I get. This food has the least amount of pesticides and herbicides. So let's stick with some of these things. So let's just eat EWG, their clean 15 and their dirty dozen,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it takes a little time to to continue to educate yourself. This
Yeah.
is the stuff I love, so I do it all the time, but
Yeah.
my goal is to kind of consolidate, kind of like with what you're doing, right? You want to get the good information out there so people can start their own understanding, learning process. And then when we start to stop buying some of this shit that's out there and creating, continuing to create harm, which again, as I said earlier, can be passed on for generations.
Mm-hmm.
This is when things start to turn around, and they are starting to. I think that we're starting to see, with the movement of, functional medicine and functional
Yeah.
nutrition, with the movement of EWG, as well as people understanding more about gluten. I don't think, oh, the non-GMO project, things like that, getting back to basics
Yeah.
and just avoiding the junk, right? As much as we can.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's all about having people feel like they can take back control of their life in like any aspect, whether that's their nutrition, that's their mental health, that's just, getting back on track from like the girl you used to be before, or the woman you used to be before kids, or whatever it is. It's like knowing that you're not alone in your journey, and there's people out there to help you, like
Mhm.
you, like you can help with healing yourself through nutrition. And I think that's extremely important. It's nice to have people around to help you hold accountability and also just kind of see what you're not seeing, and like have the tools like the epigenetics, is that what it's called?
Epigenetics.
Epigenetics, yeah.
Hmm.
Like understanding that, and having someone like you with knowledge. So I think it's important for people to feel that they can have a choice and take back control, and especially in the products that we use. And we can show it through our pocketbooks and just through always continuing educating ourselves.
It's true. And you nailed it right on the head, I think, because we all sometimes need somebody to look outside of ourselves. I
Mhm.
can see this. And I know sometimes I said this earlier, but I have a hard time sometimes thinking outside of the box because it's stuff that I don't know or stuff that
Yeah.
I've not experienced. And this is why I have, hired business coaches. This is why I've hired mindset coaches, and this is why people hire me,
Mhm.
is so I can, if they may be as in tune with their body as they can possibly be and eating really well, but I still have the ability to come and see from the outside to help give guidance on, okay, let's try this and see if this is maybe the better option.
Mhm.
Because when we're sitting in the middle, as you know, of a situation of a chronic condition, sometimes you're just like, I feel like I'm spinning out of control.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Out of control. And then you work so hard, and then like you don't see like results, or like, you're just like,
mhm,
what's going on? Yeah, no, it's go definitely like dark night through the soul
uh-huh, yeah,
type of
yeah.
stuff. But when you come out on the other side, it's great. And honestly, I think the thing that's got me through it all is my mindset,
Mhm,
surrounding myself with people who are knowledge in the space, whether that's functional and Western medicine.
mhm,
I do like to steer more towards like natural stuff. I'm like, oh man, I don't want to be a product of like pharma, like where you have to be like stuck on medicine like that. But,
mhm.
and being truthful to yourself of like really where you are in life. Like sometimes like a hard decision, like you need to, leave someone for your sake of a toxic environment or whatever that is, like just being really honest with where you are at is
Mhm.
what's going to be the first step to healing yourself.
I think that's so true because because it brings to mind a client who I had who it's so interesting. You don't know people's stories until you start getting into it, and you're just, holy smokes, man, people deal with a lot of junk.
Yeah.
Life can be really, really hard. And for her, and I didn't know this until we got into it, but it really literally was taking that first step. She was afraid, she didn't want to, she didn't know what was going to happen. You just get stuck again, sort of in that spiral, and what's going to help, and I don't know what to do. And it was that first step, and then she's now on this step toward, just all the amazing things that, I mean, it's still going to be work, right?
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
she's so smart and so much to offer. And it helped her to understand too her own history. So much of that created uh, her blocks, her being stuck.
Yeah.
She was able to start to move past that and able to understand that and not feel some of that pain that she has felt in the past, right? So anyway, it's true, it's we sometimes just have to have that little push.
Mhm. Mhm. So, Nikki, before I dive into my 4 questions, do you have any last words before we begin?
I think so. I have to put this out there because it's the thing that I'm probably the most excited and passionate about. But I work so much with people who are dealing with, the GI stuff, the autoimmune stuff, but it has all sort of culminated into expanding into preconception planning. And
Mm-hmm.
I keep saying, it has to do with the epigenetics because it's such a fascinating field and fascinating world of really understanding the amount of control that we have as individuals. I think so often we think, I'm just one person, I don't have control over anything, or my life is crazy, or whatever the case may be. But having this knowledge that my health today can have an impact on conception, on pregnancy, on the baby, on the development of the baby, the development of the baby's brain, their mental and emotional health as they age, and then for 7 generations ahead is what the data shows, is our health today can impact 7 generations. That's hundreds of years
That is.
of health. Yeah, that we can create the health of the future. So I get all animated about it because I get really excited about it, because we can do something as individuals. We can do something about sort of this, you said it earlier, this madness that we're in, this we're sicker and we're heavier and we're, our minds are more anxiety and
I
depression and
know. Well, and then
inflammation. Yeah.
like the amount of like Down syndrome now, has increased like tenfold. Like what is happening? What are we doing that is causing this? Because it used to be rare, like when I was growing up. Now it's like, I don't even know the number. I don't want to say the wrong thing, but a lot more people have it, and it's a lot more common. And what are we doing to our children? Is it our food? Is it the medicine? Like, we have to, there's something going on and we need to get down to the bottom of it, I think. Because we're seeing it in the generations, like you were talking about. It does affect generations and to come.
And so just for the sake of clarity, oh, I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, go. I was just like, we're seeing it is basically just all I said.
Yeah. But yeah, for the sake of clarity, and I just want to, and for everybody else who's listening, so there is no confusion. So Down syndrome is a true genetic condition,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I don't know, I don't know the ins and outs of something like that. So and the fact that it is on the rise is unnerving, to say the least, right? But want to make sure that when I talk about epigenetics, that epigenetics is the location on genes that turn genes on and off. So it's essentially genetic expression. The epigenome is what allows for genetic expression, which is why we have so much power, because we control what we put in our mouths and on our skin and in our home environment and what we put on our yards. So those are a lot, we have control, although hard, on the thoughts that we think to ourselves. There's some things we don't have control of, certain traumas, the air outside, depending on where you live. So, but there's so much that we do have control of. So most of the conditions today that we deal with, some would say 95 to 98% of them are lifestyle or epigenetic, whereas that the rest of it is truly genetic.
Yeah. Thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah.
Okay, so Nikki, my 4 questions to you. First one, who and what inspires you?
I'm going to say my clients truly inspire me, because so often they're coming, not always, but so often they're coming to me going through the whirlwind of the medical system and frustrated and maybe even not listened to. I did a show on my labs are normal, but I don't feel normal, and we see this a lot where my doctor's telling me I'm fine, but I don't feel fine. And I want people to take that and to be their advocates, right? And that's, my clients who are coming to me, it's really what they're doing, whether it's for their chronic condition that they're dealing with, because they have to work really hard, and it can be hard, but it can also be amazing as we start to get through some of these humps. But then those who are, coming into my Soulful Conception course, which is the preconception planning. It's I want to do everything that I can to make sure that I'm creating the best for the future child or children, and of course my future family, for years. Yeah.
And then my second question is, what is something you wished you knew when you were younger?
I think the impact of my actions on my health. And I was a little bit later in life to become a nutritionist. I studied nutrition for, I don't know, it's been 25 years or more. But before that, I started studying nutrition after grad school. So prior to grad school and I was a kid, man, we had gallons of ice cream, and we were eating nachos, and I mean, this the amazing amount of terrible food I put into my body
Mhm.
is is it's crazy. And I should maybe be much sicker. I don't know. It's a great thing though, is we can reverse it. And so that's, what I did. But I had my own chronic junk that I had to go through in order to get to this point.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I think that had I known, but there's, I grew up with my parents in a generation of, we ate processed food. What's wrong
Yeah.
with it? Food's food, no matter what. And there's
Mhm.
just not the understanding that we have today. And that's part of life and part of growth is learning.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep. You gotta fail to learn, and you gotta just live life
Yeah.
to learn, and you're always gonna be learning. Um, so my third question to you is, what's the essential part of your daily routine?
It is my uh, morning prayer time, meditation, Bible study, devotional. I'm not always amazing at it, but as I grow and as I age and as I learn, I have him sitting on my little couch right here next to me. It is that understanding of how important it is for setting my day. If I miss, then I try to do it at night.
Mhm.
And just taking that time to be quiet. Just before you and I got on here, the sun's out and it's beautiful and it's 77 degrees or something. And so I do my Bible study in the morning, but when it's beautiful and sunny, that's when I go outside and I meditate, and I try to just be quiet, which is hard, but be calm and listen. And that's, listen for guidance, listen for wisdom, listen for whatever it is that I'm supposed to hear.
Yeah. No, I think being outside is so recharging and really great. So it's like anytime it is nice, I like to go for a walk and just like be in silence. And I get a lot of like
Mm.
messages when I'm outside by myself.
Yeah.
Um,
Open.
so my last question is the best advice you've ever received.
Get a coach.
Yeah, they definitely can be helpful for sure, and help like lead you to your goals of what you want to
Yeah.
where you want to go.
Yeah. On again, I think I said this earlier, but it's in so many areas. We all need that help in different areas. It might be health, it might be mindset, it might be business coaching. There's so many things out there that are there to help. They are there to help us grow, to see outside of ourselves. And yes, when we don't know how to get to that next level, finding somebody who you trust to get you to that next level is, I think it's imperative. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Nikki, thank you so much for coming on this week's episode of Not Your Mama's podcast. It was such a fruitful conversation. All of her links are down below in the show notes. Don't be shy, go say hi, and I will see you all in the next one.